Editing Have You was also a challenging process. It took us a long time because it coincided with a lot of other huge events that we had. We started with the breakdown, the first breakdown, the one that has a story with the traveler offering the coins for Lord Akuma and getting... We knew that because that was, let's say, zeroed in from the start. But what we did not know was the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we had to do that over time in stages, but only after we were completely happy with the breakdown. So we did the breakdown for like, I don't know, maybe 10 times in like week-long sessions, and everything was done with a close attention to details. Speaking of details, after production we had post-production. So after working like crazy for the clip, for the pre-production, for building the sets, for doing all that work, we couldn't leave anything outside of perfection.
Since Braindance, me and Cezar discovered that we can actually polish the video even more through something called frame-by-frame work. So Have You, in almost its entirety, was processed in this manner after it was edited. So we exported sequences of frames, so we had more liberty on taking out stuff out of it, like we didn't want to show like extra sockets, wires, costume adjustments, and so on. It was a pretty difficult and intense process too, since we had to match perfectly every frame between themselves, and it's basically like frame by frame animation. Another thing which this process helped us with was adding, of course, stuff in. A good example, it's the shine on the jewelry and the extra lights that were added in the Black Limbo set. So the post-production itself, aside from the editing, consisted on frame-by-frame work, around 6,000 frames, tracked and animated lights, and aggressive colorization to obtain that fantasy vibe. And so far, Have You is the most polished music video that we worked on. We had lots of hours put into it, lots of sweat and tears and frustrations too, but I think it was all worth it in the end.
Hai cu breakdown-ul! Bine! Bun!
Right, so for a project that has been in works for almost 2 years, of course there were times where we had concerns that it will not come out, that it will be probably repurposed, or it will be not done.
One of the perks of not having an internal monologue is that I can't really ask myself such doubtful questions like, will it ever come out? When I'm already in the midst of the project and pretty focused. In reality, we were asked if the video would ever see the light of day. Personally, I gave a confident yes, and then I was jokingly asked back what year, to which I also confidently responded with yes.
Sometimes it was kind of turning into like a running gag, like finishing the breakdown another 50 times before starting actually post-production and doing stuff like that. But we haven't lost hope because we've invested so much time and work in this, and so much passion and so much heart. We felt that we had a duty to ourselves and to our fans to release it, even if it came later than the release of the song.
Not gonna lie, making such a complex video was pretty challenging from multiple aspects. My biggest issue is that whenever I'm thinking of a concept, I also ask myself, where would we film this? Because we're lacking proper filming spaces, well, except for the high-end studios, to which, we can't really afford those for now. This is the main challenge for us, I'd say. And because of it, I had to reiterate the music video's story a few times so we could make it fit for a small apartment room, meaning cutting out complex camera movements or character actions. Another obstacle was actually adding extra characters, which included extra wardrobe and another whole set. Have You was supposed to be even more complex and intricate. The first elevator pitch included 3 separate timelines. but unfortunately it had to be cut down since we didn't have the space and the manpower to make it happen.
It's been tough. I mean, we've had issues with almost everything. We had to work in a small 2-bedroom apartment, out of which one room was the set, so the other bedroom was makeup, monitoring, editing, and so on. It was tough, but it was worth it.
We had the whole crew on set, and unfortunately we realized only after the shot was done that the table slide was indeed incredibly strong and my face was clipped on film, and because we didn't have time to reshoot them right there and then, we had to reschedule another day to shoot the most of the scenes in which I'm in the main set with the table. You know, that's kind of like basically half of the music video. But on that occasion we learned our lesson and we started making several camera tests and then make a quick grading to see what's really going on and to make sure that, you know, everything's alright now. From a personal standpoint, I think one of the toughest moments I experienced was to stay awake. The shooting elapsed into 2 days, maybe more, I can't really remember. In actuality, I was awake for more than that, because before everybody came into the house to set up the lights and everything else, I was just finishing up the last touches for the main set. So in reality, I was lacking around, I think, 4 days worth of sleep until the end of the shooting. When we were halfway done with the filming, I could tell with who I was talking to only by looking at their shoes. And I promise you, I wish I was kidding. I was so tired that I couldn't even lift up my eyes to look at them. And at the reshoots though, I looked more alive, which made me happy, but no, I still didn't had enough sleep either before like the actual filming.